the end of the meeting. Moving on, we have approval of the minutes from February 7th. We had regular session and executive session.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. Do you have any questions, comments, clarifications from anyone? We're all good? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you very much, everyone. And on to communications. Beth, do we have anything? Okay, very good. Then on to the board secretary and treasurer report, please, Mrs. Laurie.
Okay, I move we approve the board secretary and treasurer's reports month ending January 31, 2017, with a cash balance $7,909,974.44.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any questions or comments about the report? Everybody's good? Okay, roll call then, please.
Mr. Bruzio.
Yes.
Ms. Dye.
Yes.
Ms. Rosario. Yes. Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie.
Yes.
Mr. Scarnio.
Yes.
Mrs. Mullin.
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Abstain.
And Mrs. Shaw.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Laurie. Superintendent's report, Mr. Becker.
Thank you, ma'am. We have the recommendation for the out-of-district placement and transportation for the two students, well, actually the one student noted, and also for the additional placement of an aide required by a student at an out-of-district placement. It is mentioned that the amount right now is what is set in stone, but as usual, set in stone means until a change is made. So when the state goes ahead and does a recalculation of the tuition, that may indeed change to some degree.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
we have a motion and we have a second. Any questions or comments?
Yes. Is this the tuition plus for the remainder of the year?
Yes.
Very good. Anyone else? Okay, roll call then, please.
Mr. Bruzio.
Yes.
Ms. Dye.
Yes.
Ms. Rosario. Yes. Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie.
Yes.
Mr. Scarnio.
Yes.
Mrs. Mullin.
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Okay, the next item, we recommend the field trips and travel as per the attached list.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Are there any questions or comments about it? Everyone got a chance to look? Any questions? Okay, roll call then, please.
Mr. Bruzio.
Yes.
Ms. Dye.
Yes.
Ms. Rosario. Yes. Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie.
Yes.
Mr. Scarnio.
Yes.
Mrs. Mullin.
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes. Thank you very much.
And then the final item is just we have the statistical attendance report for the month of January for your edification.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Personnel, Mr. Miller, please.
Yes, I make a motion that the board approve staff and extra services appointments for 2016-17 school year as listed, and we have items 1 through 10.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Items going on to page 4. Any questions or comments from anyone? Everyone's good? Okay, roll call then, please.
Mr. Bruzio.
Yes to 1, 2, and 9, abstain from the rest.
Mrs. Dye.
Yes.
Ms. Rosario. Yes. Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie.
Yes.
Mr. Scarnio.
Yes.
Mrs. Mullin.
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes. Thank you very much. Mr. Miller, on to curriculum and co-curriculum. Mrs. Mullin.
I move that the board recommends approval of the Dover High School Athletic Association Treasury Report compiled by Sean Bullock for the month of January 2017.
Very good, thank you. Do we have a second? We have a motion, we have a second. Any questions about Mr. Bullock's report? Everyone's good? Okay, roll call then, please.
Mr. Bruzio.
Yes.
Ms. Dye.
Yes.
Ms. Rosario. Yes. Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie.
Yes.
Mr. Scarnio.
Yes.
Mrs. Mullin.
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mrs. Mullen. Community Relations, Mrs. Rosario.
Item 8, main grant. The motion to the board resolve and upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the board of education recognizing and accept therefore resolved that the Board of Education approve the remedial and disciplinary action taken for each ballot case.
Very good. We have a motion. We have a second. Any questions or comments? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Lucio?
Yes.
Ms. Dodd?
Yes.
Ms. Rosario?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Flori?
Yes.
Mr. Scarnio?
Yes.
Mrs. Mullen?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Rose?
Yes.
Mrs. Shower?
Yes. Very good. Then we have some other items to report down on the bottom. Did you want to just highlight some of these for us?
Actually, I'm gonna recommend everybody to read items C, D, E, F, and G.
Great.
Okay, and very important, I have to make my comment, very important, thank you, Mr. Becker. I think, the community, that they need to know how we're doing, how proud of, we are about our
Yes.
student and our staff. Okay, and actually, when I find out, I'm gonna read tonight, and I was, reading like 100 times, and I say, oh my God. I was so happy to see all this. But I recommend everybody to read about, all the items for tonight. And congratulate the students and the parents.
Very good. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. And I agree. I agree 100%. Excellent news. On to buildings and grounds. I don't see anything on here. Do you have anything, Mrs. Dunn? Very good. Thank you.
There's actually am I looking at the right day? I thought there was a, reported into lesson.
No, that was for December, so that's,
No, January.
yeah, but the report was,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
I'm really sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. But that's very efficient. Look at, you looked at that file, and that's great.
I'm like,
We did it that way. Okay, on to budget and finance. No, still that chair.
no, I was just,
On to budget and
okay.
finance.
I move we approve and or adopt the following resolutions as listed.
Okay. And
Second.
we have a motion, we have a second, and those are items A, 1 through 3, onto page 6 at the top. Any questions or comments?
Just our tuition rates, they're still the lowest in the county.
Yes, they are, I believe so. Mr. Becker?
They are, and one thing to point out is Ms. Jenna, she's an alternate method this year, working with the Mineville Board of Education. Because what happened is, usually when we use our budget program from the State Department, it dictates the amount that is actually spent. And every year, that's actually larger than the amount that is actually the cost. So what happens is, that every year, we end up returning a significant portion of money to Mine Hill after the audit is done 2 years out. So now what we've done is work with them to come up with a more realistic projection, because we do take advantage of a lot of funding, grants, private grants, things that afford opportunities for our children that aren't covered in a normal budget. And so the net result is that the amount per student is always lower. So we try to take that into account by using the alternative accounting techniques with the Mineville BA, and there was an agreement there.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Very good. Any other questions?
Well, and it's
Yes.
also wonderful to see the generous donations again. That class of 55
Thank you
is
so
just
much.
amazing.
And they love
They
to be,
really are
they
amazing.
love to hand out the award themselves.
Right.
At our
And such a
scholarship.
benefit to the
Yes.
students.
Yes.
It's just
good to see
amazing.
that. Good to see that. Ms. Ruiz, did you have something to say?
Thank you, Madam President. If it's within the scope, and I imagine it's challenging to explain a budget in short sentences, but is it possible to give a short explanation of how Dover has been successful at maintaining our tuition as the lowest in the county, and why that's a benefit as opposed to raising our tuition?
Well, we certainly could raise tuition, that'd be very easy, if you're recommending that.
Just asking.
It'll be
Thank you.
easy. But basically, the challenge we have is balancing the needs of the students, to be responsible for the budget that we put together, and also being responsible to the taxpayers. Every year we do have a significant challenge because we lose a significant number of ratables, which certainly does impact our tax levy. One thing that we do is we get a tremendous amount of aid from the state and federal government. We apply for just about every dollar that will be advantageous for us. And the one thing that we found was it's recommended that we apply for 80% like of Title I aid, because the government will never guarantee that you're going to get your aid. So they tell us all to apply for 80%, and then what happens is if we get 100%, we end up having money that we shift over, so that gives us a surplus, which drives down our total prices. I think another thing that we do is we're very cautious, and you're right, it is hard to give you a summary, but we use because we've been here for a long time, many people would say too long, what we do is we're very cautious and use very traditional budgeting techniques. We don't go out and, as Linda knows, we don't go out and do a lot of leasing. We don't have a debt service that we leave to the future. We don't have to pay for photocopiers, driver ed cars, anything like that. We save very carefully. When we have the money, we plan and we expend it. And what that does is that enables us, our costs, our realistic costs that we're spending, we don't have to earmark 20% of our budget to pay for debts incurred in prior years. So I think there's really no one answer, but a variety of answers. And also we have a lot of good partnerships. It would do help us also in terms of materials and supplies and sponsoring kids on trips. So it's really everything put together. In terms of what our students actually have, I think many people that go to other districts are shocked when they find out that actually our technology, our equipment, our training, our SAMR project, I won't say the name of the social studies project, Gilder Lerman, I always want to say Gesundheit or something. But we do a lot of different projects that bring a lot of goods to the students with Dover without being an incurred cost upon the taxpayer. Even if you look at our athletic fields, we phase that in. We knew we couldn't afford to do it in one block. That's why it took us, I don't know,
At least 10, 12,
5 years for actual
years.
process, 5
Yeah.
years for process.
and we phased it in one section at a time. So we had the stands, we had the turf, we had the brick around it. So by doing a lot of this stuff, phasing it in, it enabled us to meet the current needs of the students, give them what they needed, but not lock us up so we had to pay, okay, how much do we owe for last year before we construct the current budget? Because when you do that, you actually increase your total cost, but you're not getting anything because of it. You know, it's like going out and leasing an extra car. It's nice to have the, I don't know, Ferrari, whatever you got to rent, it's nice to have it. But then when you have to pay for it, you've got to take it somewhere else in your budget. It's really a whole host of combination of things. We work very hard on it. It doesn't happen by accident. Could we do better? We always try. And our big uncertainty is balancing the tax rate with the ratables in town and how much of an income we're going to get. Right now, we're also concerned with the state and federal aid. We don't know what it's going to be, and it won't be until March 2nd that we get our first round of state aid figures. And that's a little scary. Back in the good old days, we used to get it in November.
Yeah, right, that's what I'm
When is our public meeting, our public budget meeting? That
I
is
have to
soon?
look,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
it's going to be, it'll be soon, at the beginning of March. But that's open to the public, and it's publicly announced, it's in the newspaper, it'll be on the website, it's a public meeting. There's a PowerPoint presentation with a breakdown of all of the things that have gone on through the year, how money was spent through the year, how the budget is compiled. It's an excellent presentation, unfortunately, very poorly attended over the years, even though well advertised. Every student gets a notice going home that there's a public meeting. We actually, at one point, we used to travel from school to school so that we could involve the PTAs. We took it on, we called it the road show, and we would do budget presentations all through the entire month of March. But now we have our beautiful media center, so we are home base here. So as soon as that date is issued, it'll be on the website, and we look forward to that. Mr. Moore?
Can I just send another comment? Based on the public presentation that Minehill gave on the feasibility study, looking at these numbers, the amount of savings they projected is really cut in half, because they projected a student tuition cost that's almost $2,000 more than what is the real cost. Even the special education cost is less than what they projected. So the savings is basically cut in half. There's really not a lot of savings at all. But, that's something that we'll also address when we have our meeting with the Minehill Liaison Committee.
Very good, okay, thank you. Anybody else, any other questions? Okay, then roll call time.
Mr. Rubio.
Yes.
Ms. Dodds. Yes. Mr. Rosario. Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Ms. Ford.
Yes.
Mr. Scarnio.
Yes.
Mrs. Mullin.
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mrs. Shower.
Yes. Thank you very much, thank you. Ms. Lori and Mr. Becker. Dover report from Minehill, Mr. Lucio, do you have anything for us?
No, I don't think this time.
Okay. Thank you. And on to old business. Very exciting times here at Dover last week. We had our board meeting on Tuesday, and then Wednesday night we were here again at our media center for the New Jersey School Board's meeting. We were hosting Morris County, but we were also doing a video conference with Salem and Union counties, and that was exciting. I do have to say congratulations, and again, I thank you to our tech guru, John. He stayed here the entire time, right to the bitter end, and we did run late to make sure that everything ran beautifully. We had no issues here in Morris County whatsoever. They even congratulated us on our hookup. Promethean was here, the manufacturer of our equipment was here, and he couldn't sell us anything because we had everything. So that was really nice. But John did do an excellent job. And Pomptonian, our food service supplied, they were contracted by New Jersey School Boards to supply our meal, which was outstanding. Did an outstanding job. It was like going out for an evening out to a restaurant, because they had tables set with centerpieces and hors d'oeuvres, and it was a very nice evening. So we had board members who attended. We had Mr. Scarnio, Ms. Mullen, Mr. Miller, Ms. Phillips, and Ms. Rosario, myself. That's it, right? Oh, and Ms. Laurie, how could I forget? How could I forget Ms. Laurie? So I would love to hear an overview. It was very interesting. It was 3 attorneys giving the presentation, so it was intensive. There was a lot of listening that had to be done. So who wants to start? Mr. Miller.
One of the presentations at the end was on social media, and I was surprised because some of the board members from the other districts basically realized that as a board member, you give up your rights to have your personal comments on Facebook and be able to make comments. So, I have a Facebook account, I have friends, the incident with the basketball game, I made a comment that's terrible. I realized I can't make any of those comments anymore. And so that's something that we all have to be aware of. A couple of people that were in the audience said they questioned, they didn't realize what they got into with that. I mean, I usually post pictures of trees, and I don't get into anything controversial.
Actual cases that have been brought up and what the findings of the courts were and how they were disposed. And a lot of it is very eye-opening because you really don't realize some of the legalities that you open yourself up to and some of the adverse impacts you can have on your school district.
They said the disclaimer that some people felt very secure in putting the disclaimer that I'm speaking as a private citizen, I'm not speaking as a board member, and they said that if someone took a picture of that, posted it even on a secure site with just your friends and not the World Wide Web looking at it, that they could alter it and put it someplace else, and you just post it as a board member.
And the other theory they knocked down was that, well, I only share stuff with my friends. It's my very close friends. Well, as soon as one of your close friends, shares that with one of their friends, it's now out there to the public. You can't control it. It gets
There's
leaked.
no retracting.
So once you put it out, even if it is with close friends, you have no expectation that that's going to remain in those close circles.
So you lose your right to privacy in a sense. sense, not.
Right, because they were saying you can share, it. So if I write something and then you share it, then everybody who's friends with you can see it and everybody who's friends with those. So even if I didn't share it necessarily with those people, well, you know, because you can see it, it just kind of blossoms and all these people can see it.
It takes wings.
So while we are private citizens, the things we say outside, be in a social media setting or a social setting in town, could pose a risk to our
Because
position
no matter
and our
what, you are a board
obligations
member.
on the board.
So if you say something, you give someone advice, or you make a statement on there, you are doing that as a board member, even if you're not. You're doing it as a board member first, and you're really not recognized as a private citizen anymore. Especially if it's a school issue that's a heated issue, and you're entrenching yourself in the center of it, they just said, just don't do it, just don't do it.
I mean, because you might not even realize it at
Right.
the time when you make a comment, because you're just, but then later on, after it snowballs, it's like, so, but the other thing was that somebody brought up the fact that, you know, we don't have any protection as far as if there is a lawsuit, liability.
No, we don't. As a matter of fact, if, I think they also mentioned, and Mr. Pruitt, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that in some of the cases of ethics violations, if they were fraudulent ethics violation or found not to be upheld, that you could be fined. That there were fines, there was that one case that you knew the party, it was a $10,000 fine for the person who brought up the case, made an accusation, and then it ended up being false and unfounded, and there was a $10,000 fine for the person. So it was very interesting and eye-opening. Through the many things I had heard before, and we read everything that comes from school boards on a weekly basis, to get that from 3 different attorneys, 3 different locations, and then the questions that the board members ask, which, you know, that sparks another topic. So that was
And of course, the beauty of all of this is that these are all living documents, and any one of them can be changed by any court tomorrow. So it's,
right.
you know, it's just a common gambit that should run, and it's one of the reasons that school boards bring this program is just to inform board members of where they need to be careful.
And it had some limitations. I know they ran out of flyers, out of the paperwork, the
Right,
PowerPoint.
yeah.
So some of it, not
So
only
that
could we
was
not
too bad,
hear
yeah.
what Salem County was saying, and then we had an attorney who talked really fast,
Yeah.
and we couldn't hear him. We couldn't read along either, but in the front, you probably did a lot better, because we had the TV set up, and it was on the whiteboard also, so we were covered. We had everything covered. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Okay, anybody else want to add anything, Maria? When in doubt, don't post it. When in doubt, don't post it. Keep it to yourself. That's the best advice that they gave at the end. Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else have any other old business?
I do, Madam President. I did check, I did hear back from the New Jersey for Thought campaign regarding their invitation for their school breakfast roundtable on March 9th.
You heard back?
Yes, and that was extended. I don't know if you recall, they sent me
Yes.
the invitation to forward to our administrators, and that was done. And they did clarify that board members are welcome to attend.
Okay.
So if anybody would like to attend the March 9th New Jersey for Thought campaign, school breakfast roundtable, which is by invitation only, the Dover school administrators and Board of Education are welcome to attend, and you just reply to that invitation that we all received.
Okay.
You made it forward to us.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, on to new business. We have the rolling calendar. Our next meeting, March 7th at 7:30 starting. Again, we still have the 2 dates for school boards, March 22nd and April 26th. And also, I wanted to make mention, I had Kathy Jenish forward an email that Ms. Ruiz had sent me back on February 11th with some items. And I'm going to leave that up to you, Ms. Ruiz, to see if you wanted to discuss any of these items of interest. I know I did answer one of the items already. I responded to you, which was, where is it? Item number, where is it? Perhaps it didn't have an item number. Maybe it was just embedded in the thing. It was in reference to the request for interpretation on our website, which now appears above the list of agendas and dates. If anyone does need interpretation devices, it was there for the last meeting. I don't know if anybody noticed it, but I did mention it to Ms. Ruiz. It is there now. And there you go. Oh, it was item number 3, I'm sorry. Post a sentence. There you go. Okay, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. As you know, I attended the New Jersey School Boards Association weekend orientation and the training, as well as the leadership training, both of which encouraged me to listen and to learn and to ask questions in order to be the most effective board member I could possibly be. I've also enjoyed the privilege of learning from our president and Mr. Scarnio in conversation, and from Ms. Mullen and Mr. Miller through our committee work, and that has been very helpful to me. As I continue to learn from these trainings and interactions with other board members, and as I listen to the comments from the public, several questions and comments arise. And some of these questions have simple answers, like you pointing to the new statement on our district webpage, while others may require discussion. For example, the New Jersey School Boards Association training teaches that as board members, our first priority is the students and their achievement. So thus, the School Board Association encourages board members to request that the superintendent's report begin with highlights of student achievement. The board, as the board, may invite students to present their achievements, questions, and ideas at board meetings. I also learned that the School Boards Association encourages all members to read Robert's Rules of Order. I am just reading it now, so thank you all for your patience with me as I catch up. The New Jersey School Boards Association also encourages all Board of Education committees to meet regularly with an agenda and a purpose. And finally, we were encouraged to attend the New Jersey School Board Association training on inherent bias planned for April or May. So thank you for allowing me to share my numerous questions and comments with the board. And I just numbered them a little differently because I chunked a couple in the front. And the first question, and if motions are necessary after the questions, I'll make those at the end. The first question, do we participate in the Rutgers Institute for Improving Student Achievement program?
Who are you asking?
Madam President or the administration, if they have that information available?
Mr. Becker, did you want to comment on this?
Not at this time, no. we don't.
Okay. And have we conducted a climate survey is the second question.
What type of climate survey?
The 2012 New Jersey Department of Education, in partnership with the Lasting Center for Survey Research, created the New Jersey School Climate Survey, and then that was revamped after information from schools and the public. And the latest version, I believe that may be 2014, includes 4 validated questionnaires to support local school climate and culture improvement activities as an integral part of the continuous efforts to improve students' educations and prevent at-risk student schools. So I'm particularly asking about the new and improved, the revised New Jersey School Climate Survey.
From 2014?
I don't know the year, but not the 2012 one, the newer one.
2014, no. We
Okay.
have had climate surveys in the past.
Okay. Do you know what years we've had climate surveys?
No.
So yes, in the past. And presumably not yet in 2017, at the very least.
That's safe to say.
Did we have one in 2016?
Is there a goal to your question?
Because
Could you just let us know what the goal is so we can understand the question?
Because I will make a motion regarding the climate survey if it's necessary, but if we're already doing it, then a motion is not necessary.
Again, I'm going to ask, what's the goal for the climate survey?
It's the recommendation of the Department of Education that school boards engage in climate surveys to determine what the climate is in the school and what, if any, improvements can be made.
Okay, but that may fall into the category of something else that we're already doing. So that's where some of the items that you're requesting may be the job of the superintendent to fulfill this in reference to CUSAC regulations. I'm sure that there's something about climate study.
As I explained, these were questions that I brought back from the School Boards Association. So these were all these questions are stemming from recommendations by the School Board Association at the orientation training and the leadership training.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're not required to, we have done
No, not
surveys.
required.
You're right, thank you. And we have done surveys. A lot of the surveys we've done have been more in terms of student climate, what can we do, how can we improve our programs. Sometimes we do curriculum surveys. There's another survey by the State Department we just got that is looking at we've been requested to do it by the Department of Education, but it has to do with sex practices, orientation, first use of drugs, things like that. They do recommend this. It's something I'm very hesitant to do unless parents have full knowledge, because I don't think things like that are appropriate regardless of who recommends them, unless the parents buy into such invasive questionnaires of their children. So I think that's, if there's a request for another climate survey, we've been looking at it, we can certainly do that. That's not a problem. They are useful. And it is something we can certainly explore. I don't have a problem at all with doing it. So your question is, can we do one? Absolutely.
No, not yet. My question was just first, have we done one?
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know enough about them yet to propose one, so I just now want to know, have we done one? And it sounds like we have done some in the past, and that we're aware
But
of
in
them.
terms of a routine, do we do this every year? The answer is no.
Thank you. So then not in
You're welcome.
2016.
Asked and answered.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the answer then? Because I didn't get if we did one in
answered that, I think.
2016.
We already answered that. We didn't do one in 16 per se, but we did do other types of climate surveys or surveys reflecting how do you feel the curriculum, surveys to elementary teachers. We had the principals discuss with them the need for new elementary series, and we did one for grades K through 3, and now we're 4 through 6. So yeah, I guess it depends on how we parse the words for the surveys and educational climate, morale, new initiatives, what can we do to improve the education. So that's why I'm having a little bit of a problem.
In essence, a goal for the survey, not just an overall survey
Right.
of everything. It's a goal survey. Okay.
And that actually, thank you, Madam President, brings me to the next question. How we establish goals for our work in the next 5 years, us as a board?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Yes, we have.
Thank you. I'm going to skip, I had another question about the budget, but thank you, Madam President, for letting us know we will be having a presentation on that. So I'll hold that question until after the presentation, if the question stands after the presentation. Thank you for answering those questions. And if I may, Madam President, then I do have some motions to present.
Okay.
Thank you. This board has made efforts to ensure that Spanish speakers with limited English language speaking skills and/or limited English comprehension skills feel welcome at our board meetings and are well informed. For example, as Madam President already pointed out, at the last meeting, there was an interpreter available with equipment. An announcement was made inviting any member of the public to use this English-Spanish interpretation service. At that time, no member of the public used the service, and a statement was published on the Dover District website in English under the Agendas tab, which is under the Board of Education tab. The statement reads, "For translation assistance at board meetings, please contact 973-989-2000 by 9 a.m. on the day of the meeting." The statement may read and be understood more accurately if it's stated to request an interpreter at board meetings, because translation means documents, whereas interpreter refers to speech. So I make the motion that a statement in Spanish and English be published on our Dover District main homepage and on the agenda, informing the public that they may request an interpreter for the Board of Education meetings, and providing that number, as we already do, to call in order to complete the request. And maybe wording it so that it's to call at least 1 week before the meeting and no later than 9 a.m. on that day, which I presume is the intent of that language, because it seems to, that could be confusing, the by 9 a.m. on the day of the meeting. Some people might think that means you got to call by 9 a.m. on that day, not that you could call the day before.
Okay. So is that the motion that you'd like to make?
Yes, Madam President, unless you suggest a change?
If that's the motion you'd like to make the motion,
I did.
okay?
I can
And
make
is there a
it again.
second, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a second to the motion. All those in favor?
We
Or
can have
we
a
actually,
discussion.
we should have a discussion,
Right.
exactly. Sorry, it was moving a little too fast. Discussion, board
You just want to
members.
change the wording that's on there now.
Is that actually something that needs a motion?
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I don't think it
That's
needs
what
a
I'm,
motion.
I don't even think it needs a motion.
Well, some of it, not only changing the wording, she's actually asking that it's done in English and Spanish, which is not done now. The ability to Google Translate the entire website into any language is what the ability is now. Translating it just to English to Spanish, I think, is changing it. It's not just adding wording or changing the wording, it's changing what's there now, right there. It's in English with the ability to put it in any language right now.
Is the Google Translate easily accessible on the first page?
So the statement's not on the first page. That's part of the, let me break down the motion then in separate chunks, so maybe we can split it. So I make one motion that the statement be printed in Spanish and English. Make a second motion that the statement be printed on the home page, not on the agendas tab, under the Board of Ed tab, under the home page. And then I make a third motion that the language be changed from translation to interpreter, and to clarify the time frame in which people should be calling to give the board ample time to secure interpretation.
Well,
It's not really it's not really separate motions, it's just, those are all aspects of the motion.
the Board of Education page, when you click the link Board of
I have to
Education,
go up there, I have to look.
you click the link Board of Education, and then it brings you to the separate members, minutes, agendas. If you move on from that, there's nowhere there to put it. It's just links from there. If you go, for example, to the first one that says members, it's just the members and the dates. I don't believe that that's someplace where someone's going to look if they're looking for something like that. The most logical place is if you're interested in going to a meeting, you're going to want to look at the agenda to see, hey, maybe I want to go to this meeting because there's something interesting going on. That's why it was put on that page. That if you have an interest, you're going to look at the agenda, and that's where a statement would be. That, if you put it anywhere, if we put it under minutes, that's passed.
My
They may not
proposal is to
look
put
there
it on the
first.
main homepage, not under minutes.
Oh, I thought you said Board of Education page.
If I
home
did,
page for
I'm
the
sorry,
district.
the home page for the main page for our home board of that district.
Okay. That's, because again, that was different than what you said. Okay.
Thank you
So,
for helping me clarify.
that's good. So we have a motion, we have a second.
We
More
don't need a
questions?
motion.
That's the point, do we even need a motion
Well,
for this?
It's amending what's already there.
But
Right.
the question is, I think, to reflect, the motion has been made and it's been seconded, and you're now having discussion about it. If the suggestions are acceptable to everyone, then there's no need,
That's
there's
the
no need to
discussion,
continue
yeah.
with the formal motion, and we could discuss that, that the exceptions are, the suggestions are acceptable. But if not, there's a motion in a second. And so, I mean, I agree, do you understand what I'm saying? In other words,
Yeah.
a motion has been made and it's been seconded and it's now being discussed.
I think we should, if we can make clarification, just do it.
Yeah.
I don't think we should make a motion.
That's what we've done in the past.
So is that, if everyone's, it sounds like everyone's okay with those suggestions.
Is this, what are you thinking, Mr. Benson? As far as
You know,
working this
I'm
into
glad
the
to
whole
change
thing?
the word interpreter to
Yeah,
translator,
Or vice versa.
or vice versa, and I'm glad to, that's going on, but there's absolutely no issue with it. You know, like climate surveys, hey, it's fine, I'm glad to do it.
So wherever it can fit, most, where it works the
Well, it
best.
should be with
Well,
the board of
they just
education.
wanted
Right,
to,
it
they
should
want
be
it on
with
the
the
main
Board of
district
Ed.
page, and then
Yeah.
where they click on the board, it's right
It's
there.
right
That's
there
all.
for the board, because it's about board meeting.
Okay, so everyone's in agreement that we're just going to make these minor changes, and we're okay, we don't need to vote on
No.
it. Everyone's okay, Mr. Scarnio?
Yeah.
Is that a yes or a no?
I think we ought to do it for Chinese, Japanese, Filipino.
Well, in the
Korean,
Google Translate,
Polish,
you
and
can.
everybody else we may have in the district.
In the Google Translate, you can, that's, that's the issue, we're not leaving
The
anybody out.
majority of our parents are Spanish speakers, some who are not English speakers, and we have made such great strides in welcoming the Spanish community to learn what we are doing. We encourage them to get involved in their children's education. So if we can make one minor change on this webpage, and if that is helpful and it is not going to cost us anything, then that is why I make the proposal.
I do understand your point, I do understand your point. And I hate to beat a dead horse, but I feel, this is just my personal feeling, the Google Translate gives us the option of anyone. Anyone could then translate it into...
I'm not saying to remove it.
Okay, if I could finish my statement. That would be helpful, using the Google Translate, because in most cases, if someone's using a computer, they have it set on their language anyway. So everything on that computer is going to pop up in their language. For example, the very good statement that Mr. Canonis made when he was here, and he was talking about students that are brand new to his ESL program, he said the first thing he does is look at their phone, and he switches it from Spanish to English, so that they are using the one language that they're trying to teach them. So everything, I would assume also in a Spanish-speaking home, that their television set is set to Spanish-speaking channels, not English-speaking channels if they don't understand the language. So the same thing for the computer. So that's just my personal feeling, that if we left it to Google Translate, it may not be the perfect interpretation of every single word, but you would at least be able to get that one or two sentences of, if you need help with this, please call that number. And we can give you the translation help then in person here in the room. But that's just my own one personal feeling out of the whole entire board.
Madam President, thank you for sharing that. I just want to, as a bilingual speaker, encourage you to consider some of those assumptions. Those of us that are bilingual or trilingual may use several languages, and changing it to just including Spanish, I would hope would not need such a debate on this board, especially since the majority of us have already said that we are fine with
I
that
agree
change.
100%, and it is not an assumption that I'm making, because I don't live in a Spanish-speaking home, so I'm not making the assumption. I was going by Mr. Canona's statement, that that's the first thing that he does with students, is switch it from Spanish to English, so that they immediately start learning on all of the devices. So just to make that clear, I'm not assuming anything. I would never intend to do that. As I said, I'm just one person, and I'm not against it. So it isn't that I was even going to say no for it, I'm just voicing my opinion, which I'm entitled to.
And I think our menograms and all those, we
Correct.
tried to move to bilingual, because, and especially the messages we want our families
Correct.
to hear about attendance being on time.
All of the
and
important
things.
messages that
So
go
I think-
home are
I
bilingual.
think it would be okay to put it, to make it really out there accessible.
Right, and I'm okay with changing it. I actually am okay with it, but that's my personal opinion, I just wanted to get that out there. But if everybody's okay with it, we have no objections, okay, well then,
Can I just-
yes, sir.
I just want to be sure. So we're looking at the page called Board Agendas, and that's where we want the bilingual statement.
I don't believe so. Clarify, please, Ms. Rose.
I would prefer it on the district page, if you would prefer it on the agenda page, or on the
That's where
board
it
ed
is.
page.
It's on the
And
agenda page now.
I'm not going to challenge you on where you put it, as long as it is, the word is interpreter, not translation, and that it is in English and in Spanish.
So we'll make that change on the Board Agenda page, and that's easy.
Okay, very good. Okay, anything else on that same,
Not on the same, I have a second motion.
okay.
Since
So
we-
that motion
It's
is
gone.
that's a lost motion.
A new
It's
motion.
not a lost motion. It's the party, the board, I
That's
think,
right, because it did have a second.
the
so it is
board
not
basically
lost.
consented to the,
To drop the motion.
to the action that was suggested.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Since we do have goals for our work in the next 5 years, unless a motion is unnecessary, I motion that we publish our goals on the Dover District website.
Okay. Mr. Becker, we have done that in the past with our budget presentation, because that's normally where we announce our goals for the coming year, correct? So when we publish the PowerPoint presentation this year for the, can we highlight that as the board's goals?
Sure.
Will there be a list of contents for the PowerPoint? Is I guess what I'm trying to say. So that someone can go directly to
You can make
board
that work.
goals.
Yeah.
Okay, that's easy enough. That doesn't, again, not something that needs a motion.
And many of the
because-
board goals are now, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Many of the board goals are now actually dictated by the state goals, which is dictated by the building growth goals.
Exactly.
Because they have what's called the targeted performance area, and then they also have the percentage correct within each of the testing subcategories. So what we're doing is trying to spread out, meeting two different objectives by the state using the same data, and that's why it gets confusing. So we could,
Sorry, they changed it. What meeting was it, this one?
No, I don't think it was this
We
one.
were at a meeting.
It was the
where
last time
they
we were in Mountain
changed it.
Lakes, yeah.
Okay,
and that's
sorry.
the problem when you have your 5-year strategic plans now. Quite often what you're doing is constantly readjusting and reassessing as the state comes out with the new parameters that you're measuring your progress with. As an example, there's now a brand new that hasn't been started yet, but I believe is due this year, where instead of targeted performance, they're breaking down district test scores by each one of the subcategories. You know, economic, free reduced lunch, all the other things. The problem is the new mathematics. Dover's sort of an outlier in terms of our performance in the categories. So you can pass every category that you have for your subgroups and still fail the total students for the state. So we have to go back and actually readjust what we do and try to figure out how we can accommodate that new regulation. So one of the challenges we have, you know, 5-year strategic planning was very popular at one point when you had a set parameters that you were trying to hit every year in terms of your testing and curriculum. Our curriculum alone, how many times has that changed in the past 5 years? 3 times? We've had to constantly revise it. So that's part of the challenge that we have in terms of long-range planning is, yeah, you can do your long-range planning, but you have to adjust your targets if the state is adjusting the matrix by which you're engaging you by. So that is part of the budget presentation. It's also part of what the schools do. It's part of the new evaluation progress, and we could, or program, but we can certainly advertise that more than we have. Not a problem.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Moving right along.
And I do have several others, but to respect the time of the public and the time of my fellow board members, I will hold them for new business at the next meeting, if that's acceptable to Madam Chair.
Okay,
Madam President.
that would be great. All righty. So that is it for new business. I thank everyone for their patience from the public. And here's, yes,
So,
yes.
I have 2 things.
Okay,
Okay. The state legislature is toying with changing the park requirements for graduation. Have you seen that, Bob?
Yes.
So now they're talking about removing park from being a graduation requirement, which in itself is not a bad thing, but they haven't determined what's going to replace it. So I don't know if they're going to come back with the high school proficiency test in some shape or form, but that's currently underfoot. That's a perfect example of how our goals change over all the time. So everything that we've been teaching out for the last 3 years and building these kids up for graduation is now ready to get struck down with the stroke of a pen, with no clear alternative yet. But we'll probably hear more about that. We have a board of directors meeting on the 3rd, so I'm sure that'll be a topic of conversation.
And we also have at the federal level the ES, is that Casey?
yes, sir.
It's hard that being beside you.
I know.
Also, when you look at the ESEA and the testing mechanisms from the federal government, under the new Director of Education, we see some changes coming down now in terms of how we will be applying. that funding and how they are going to be measuring. They are changing the whole matrix again at the federal level, which hasn't made it to the state level yet, about how they're going to judge school districts, and now they're talking about one score rather than the combination of all the different scores. So even though we're trying to adjust to what's coming out now, we know that in the very near future, the whole situation is going to be changed. It's frustrating for all of us. I would suggest it's especially frustrating for our teachers, because we keep on rolling out new curriculums. Changes are very moderate, but they're trying to hit their test goals because now they're being judged on their test scores and the student growth models. And in the same token, we never have a consistency where we can go ahead and actually work with them to plan, because the matrix does continually change. I think I don't want to talk for our teachers, but I'm sure it's very frustrating for them as well as it's frustrating for us. Kevin, do you have anything about the...
Nope, you said everything that I know this one. And just to clarify, Park isn't going away. Just the fact that Park is a graduation requirement is what they're talking about.
Right, because they have a contract.
That's right, there's a contract.
What was that, a 5-year contract?
Yes.
For how many millions?
Exactly.
To a private
5 years,
company.
exactly.
Yeah.
So 5 years is 5 years.
Yep.
You're not moving from that. Okay, very good. Anyone else for new business? Okay, now public. We're going to open it up for any items. Again, if you could stand, state your name and your address for the record, please. And we will give you your 3 minutes, and for a grand total of 30 minutes. And as I have said in the past, the board may not be able to answer your question, but we do encourage you to make your comments. So please, whoever's first.
Looks like it's going to be me again.
Yes, Mrs. Wilson, please.
Monica Pelestis, 293 West Blackwell Street, Dover. First, I want to say I enjoyed hearing the dialogue today and your comments about what you're being told about the School Boards Association and not using social media. I just did a workshop for another Board of Education telling them exactly the same thing, that you really, really need to be very cautious because we have these cases coming down that are just, you know, it's so everything that you were, it was nice to hear it confirmed that School Boards Association is doing that kind of thing. Moving back to what I was talking about at the last board meeting, I just wanted to say that one other thing has concerned me after that meeting, and that has been that Betsy DeVos has become our education secretary at the federal level. And those of us who have been involved in education for a long time, I think, share a concern about what's going to happen at the federal level, particularly what's going to happen with funding at the federal level. And that could be almost anything. So I think that to be prudent and fiscally at this point in time is particularly important because we don't know what's going to happen at the federal level, which brings me back to the question I was asking in terms of the dialogue that you're having with Martin Hill and the send-receive relationship, and the fact that obviously it would be a loss of revenue should the board go in that direction. So it's something that I'm just asking the board to consider, because this will be a long-term loss of revenue, and we don't know what's going to happen at a federal level. So I'd just like you to consider that. And then my final is really a question in terms of, I know your committees discussed this, when can the public expect an update on what's happening? Will we receive an update on what's happening with regard to that dialogue so that we have an idea of where the board is?
Salas at 94 Orem Drive. I wanted to comment, again, if Monica stops saying what I'm going to say. I enjoyed the dialogue. I'm very happy to see that happening here. I'm very grateful, and I want to thank each of you for considering and having that open with the Spanish-speaking community. I know, Mr. Scarnio, you mentioned about different languages. Yes, Spanish is not the only language in our Dover, thank God, because that makes us diverse. But I think that it is one of the most, obviously, I think that we speak it the most in this town. So I thank you for having both statements in English and Spanish, because I think it's more about the principle than really what that message is or that actual writing. It's about we're trying to welcome everyone. So I thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Yes.
Hi, Cheryl Colligan, good evening. I'm the French teacher at the middle school, and I want to inform you about our upcoming theater production. So on March 10th and March 11th, we're looking forward to the Lion King Junior Edition. This year is under the direction of Laura Kristiniak, and you may not realize that during the summer, she organized the play in advance and actually applied to Disney for a grant and received a grant, not only towards the score and other things related to theater production, but she also secured a $500 grant through Office Depot towards some of the materials. So we're very proud of Lauren for following through with that. She has over 55 students involved with the play this year. So that's terrific. Just wanted to also mention too, the other teachers that are involved with this production, Mr. Hoffer and Mr. Carmona are music teachers, Ms. Tompkins on choreography, Mr. Riccadella on set design, Ms. Gallagher on set design as well, and Ms. Aragon, our chief secretary, is the assistant director of this year's play. And lastly, I might just add, we have every Tuesday and Thursday, some people may not be aware, have what we call activity period in the middle school. It's designed as an enrichment period for our students, typically 40 minutes long. I teach travel and tourism, for example. Laura, through some of her grant money, has started an activity period specifically to study theater production. So we presently have 13 kids enrolled. It's now running on its second quarter, and this is very exciting because it kind of gives some of the foundation that's needed, to advance the kids' studies in theater and production. So we're proud of Laura. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Perdue.
Hi, Mike Perdue, 17 Chamberlain Street, Pacon, but I am a teacher in the district, and my question arises out of role as a teacher. Some of the students seem to be finding or voicing to me that the current website is not as user-friendly as far as finding the teacher websites and homework. And so my students are regularly unable to find it because of the sequence of buttons they have to click. So I'm wondering if we could reconsider the location of that one item to make it more user-friendly for our students in encouraging them to look up the homework when they need to, and allow their parents to see it as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, oh, yes.
Carlos Matias, 42 Garrison Ave. I wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to the Board of Education, present member and past members. For the past 35 years, you have done a phenomenal job in this district, I have to say. And this is coming from Hispanic American, Puerto Rican, whatever you want to call me. I have seen many changes throughout my lifetime. I also am an alumni of Dover High School, my daughter as well. And I have another one that's graduating this year, and we'll have one more after that in another 2 years. And I truly feel very blessed and lucky to have people like the people on this board and a lot of people in the community that help me and my family to be able to strive and do the things that they've been able to do. And they will continue to do. Alexander Matias is my son, and he's doing phenomenal work in the performing arts. I have to thank and give props to Mr. Daniel Vasquez. He's worked with him. I can't even say enough about it. I don't even know what to say. I'm very much speechless. There are a lot of staff in this school that you guys have hired, and they're excellent. They're excellent. Just like a lot of the parents in this community are excellent, and I have to say, I can't say enough about it. I know it's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. I don't care who's in here. It's never going to be perfect. But you know what? You do work very hard, and I truly believe you're doing what education is intended to be done in this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mathias.
And congratulations to your
Yes.
son.
Thank you.
Congratulations to your son, which I cannot believe he's a senior. And I remember the first day of school, walking down the driveway with him. Okay, next person. Anyone? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming in this evening, public. We'll close the public portion at this time. Anything else from board members? then I will take a motion to close the open meeting at this time.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much, everyone.